Hello everyone, Shirley here. This video's a little late, but today we're taking a look at Mythic Sire Denathrius. There's a ton of timings and cool things you can do on this fight as a warrior, so I'm not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into the pull. First things first, we're going to go ahead and pop our Avatar and Ravager on the pull, but we're not using Warbreaker, and the reason for that is because I'm saving Warbreaker for all these ads that pop out and instantly explode here. We're just getting a little bit extra damage on those, you know, to help kill off the ads because they are important. But you also want to use your Avatar and Ravager beforehand because it's going to make the cooldowns line up better for stuff later on in the fight. And then we're going to go ahead and get picked up there in the air, and I'm going to be using my Spell Reflect for every single one of those throughout. I also want to point out that during the second blood price here, this is where we're going to use Sweeping Strikes. Don't use it on the first one, as tempting as it may be, because everything just instantly explodes from all the cooldown stacking that you got on the pull. So we're going to go ahead and just condemn as many things as you can during that with Sweeping Strikes. One big part of this fight that you can kind of min-max is keeping up your Juggernaut stacks as much as possible as an Arms Warrior, and during those phases where you're Sweeping Strikes on ads, you just want to worry about, you know, getting potential crits with Condemn rather than trying to put deep wounds on all these little guys, of course, unless you have Ravager up. So I'm going to go ahead and inch forward there to not be in the cone, obviously, but getting, you know, in position to drop your next Ravager and Sweeping Strikes. This is my rallying cry right here on this blood price. We've got two because we've got the two warriors, and I'm going to be soaking again here, making sure not to be clipping anybody. This right here is why we use our cooldowns early, because it allows me to Avatar and use my Unused Trinket again during these ads, right before the boss falls below the 80% health threshold. And you might think that that's a little bit of a waste using Avatar here without Ravager and Warbreaker, but trust me, it's definitely worth it. And it also allows our cooldowns to be back up again later on in the next stage of the fight. So if you keep track of your cooldowns and keep them rotating properly, you'll have them exactly when you need them pretty much all the time in this fight, so it all works out really well for arms. One thing I did want to point out here, there's something you can do that's kind of a really old mechanic that not a lot of people maybe realize, is when all these ads pop out, you'll see me jump up in the air before I press Warbreaker. Fun fact, your AoE melee radius around your character actually is slightly larger when you're in the air, so if you jump, you can clip things that are like 0.2 of a meter away from you. So that's why, you know, all these ads can be really spread out depending on where people, you know, are standing when that soak goes out. So that's why I jump up in the air, is just to potentially clip everything with Warbreaker as much as possible. And as we near the transition here, we're just going to stop attacking. And, well, I was auto-attacking the boss a few times there at the end just to get some rage up for the next phase. And you want to make sure that you have 3 stacks going into this part. And this allows us to get in a cheeky Shattering Throw, Heroic Throw combo here. It's just a little something we can do. If you're a Fury, you could just spam Whirlwind on the boss from there, but Arms, you know, you don't really want to be wasting the Rage for it, because as we enter into Phase 2, I like to have a full Rage bar for this next set of ads here. I am going to go ahead and get in a couple of globals on Denathrius himself beforehand, otherwise you'll just be wasting a little bit of time over here. This is where I'm going to use my Combat Potion, or the first one of the fights, and pop all of our cooldowns again, so if you lined it up properly, you'll have your Avatar back up. And I'm going to be Sweeping Strikes on Remornia here to try and clip that main ad as much as possible. It can be a little bit challenging depending on where Remornia is bouncing around at, but that's the idea. And then we're going to go ahead and get on Remornia after I kick that first ad on the third one. There's a weak aura that tracks that. We're going to get pulled across the platform here, and, you know, through the mirror. And this is where I didn't keep it up this time around, but if you're close and paying attention, and if Remornia cooperates with you and she comes over with all you can actually keep up your Juggernaut stacks there from that initial burst phase on the ad to this next ad if you just continue to condemn down Remornia during this phase. So you can have a ton of crit rating throughout this entire fight if you're paying attention to that. We're just going to be dodging all the stuff here and getting down Baron Dusk Hollow. They don't die until we go through this mirror, so we gotta just watch out for, you know, the pools that are about to spawn, I think. And at this point, we're not really too concerned about these ads, so I'm gonna be sweeping, or using Sweeping Strikes early before they even spawn here, just to get as much condemned damage on Remornia and Denathrius as possible, then swapping over to the ads, you know, killing the first one with Denathrius for cleave potential, and then getting on the second one here. After this, it's just, you know, a little bit more of a dance. If you're not careful here, these two hand railings on either sides of the mirror, you got to be careful with your camera around here because we have died numerous times. If you get your camera too close, it'll zoom way in, so you don't want that to happen. Back through the mirror once again. This set of ads, once we have our avatar back up, this is the priority set that needs to die quickly. And it's, like I said earlier, it's very fortunate for ARMS that all these timings line up pretty much perfectly, that we're going to be having all of our cooldowns to, you know, really drop these things. During this middle phase, if Ramornia is close and not below 80% health at that point, you could just be condemning her down during that point. But otherwise, we're going to run over here and start working on the next set. The first ad here, we want to drop pretty quickly, but the second guy on the left here doesn't matter. He'll just passively get down to about 50% usually, and then you're just going to be putting all your damage on Denathrius right here and avoiding the swords, of course. Running back through the mirror onto the next set of ads, and if you haven't noticed, this is pretty rinse repeat. I did jump jump to the side there because our tank didn't have the boss quite up in the way for the cone, and I didn't want to get clipped by that. Another thing, you want to position yourself on the back side of Denathrius in these ads during these encounter parts because of the impales that go out from Ramornia. Sometimes she can be back in the middle of the room and shoot across, and you definitely don't want to get clipped by the sword. And then we're going to go ahead and drop these two. Depending on your guys' damage right here, you could be nearing 40% HP, so you might need to, like, slow down. So that's why I'm not too concerned with running off the boss here, just avoiding the swords. Yeah, it's some lost, you know, uptime, but it's not that big of a deal. It's much more important to just live during this portion of the fight. And then we're going to go through the mirror one last time here and finish off this last ad and transition the boss just above 40% health. Ideally, you want to, you know, be at 40% when we're going into phase 3. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly run up here, pop all my cooldowns again just to get them going into the last phase, positioning ourselves slightly off to the right side. That way this first Shattering Pain knockback doesn't knock us into our range group. And then after that, I'm going to go right back, you know, to where we were before for it again, using my Spell Reflect on the first blood price here just to help negate some of that damage. Our groups are dropping the soak pools off to the right, so that by that blue marker there. And as you can see, all the melee are cheating off to the left side here, so we can move up as soon as possible to get on this soak. And positioning ourselves once again for the Shattering Pain knockback to put us in the middle of the room and not, you know, off the edge. Moving back here, now that we're under 35% HP, all your cooldowns come back up. Excuse me, right about this time as an Arms Warrior, or not all of them. My bad. Ravager and Warbreaker. I'm going to go ahead and use them immediately. Unfortunately, I had to drop a soak there. I opted to go ahead and use them, which is a little bit of loss of uptime, but I wanted it to line up better with my avatar later on, so I didn't want to delay it so much. That's why I did that. We're going to be getting in front of our range group right here to bait out the first cone, and then run forward during these sword phases. It's easy to get kind of distracted and, you know, panic a little bit and run to the sides or whatever. You might get clipped by the cone if you do that, so always run forward through that that first sword phase. Then we're going to position ourselves in the back here, and the next blood price, I'm going to go ahead and pop parry here early, because this is a pretty dangerous one that just does a ton of damage. Now, unfortunately, this is where I just got really unlucky. This is, after that blood price, this is where our melee group is going to bleed Bloodlusting. And I'm going to use all my cooldowns, because they're all back up, and use my second combat potion. And I did that, and then had to go out and drop another pool there, which was very unfortunate. But anyway, moving back around, we're going to be getting in front of him here and baiting out the next cone. I do like to sit behind him for a little while during this portion, because it's really irritating to get parried all the time, especially as an Arms Warrior standing in front of him like this. But you definitely want to be in front of him before this goes out so you can bait that cone. And during this, we're going to be inching up. This is the most important part of the fight right here. I use my Spell Reflect to immune the knockback here, but you don't want to run all the way up too far forward, because you're going to be stepping on your range players and killing them. But at the same time, you don't want to be behind him because of the cone that can instantly kill you here. So we're going to inch our way up and soak this. The melee always drops off to the right side there by the X. And then we're going to drag the boss back into the middle of the room here for this blood price. This was my rally once again here for this blood price portion. Spell Reflecting, of course, every time. And then the final drop here that we got to really worry about. Melee's just dropping it right in the middle, and then we're scooting off to the left here, and it's just a burn. You definitely want to be quick on these soaks, because otherwise you'll run out of time before the knockback. The final actual soaks that are dropped, we're just ignoring. We're not going to be soaking these. We're just going to go for the kill on the boss here. And unfortunately, I get a little bit away out of melee range here for these final swords. But we go for it, and down goes Mythic Denathrius, finally. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this tier. If you've watched all of this, I'll see you in the next one. 9.1 hopefully won't be too far away, and we'll have TBC soon. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.